First, let me just introduce the company so people will know what we do. BICS is basically an acronym for Belgacom International Carrier Services, and all the 4 letters very clear. Belgacom is a majority shareholder. International, we do not do anything domestic. We don't carry any sort of traffic domestically within any country. Carrier is our customer base, so we are pure wholesale. We do not sell to enterprises or retail customers. And services. We are not a box provider. Basically, we ride on top of the network. So we have services that ride on networks. So that's what we do. We are the second biggest voice wholesale carrier in the world, and the world's leading mobile data carrier, which includes roaming, messaging, and stuff, international data that mobile operators need, excluding IP transit, which other players in the room, I'm sure, would dominate that space. I'd like to just reflect on from a wholesale perspective what we are grappling with in BICS. You know, last year or this year in the famous PTC conference in Hawaii, the voice business, which is the last great invention of the telco space, well, let's say SMS and voice. For the first time, that market is declining. So the volumes that people used to exchange over telco carriers for the first time in the history have gone down. And it's been substituted by, you know, the likes of Jaja and Reptel and of course the biggest, which is disruptive. They give something for free. Now obviously telcos are not used to that. So one of the things we are trying to grapple with is the addressable market is going down. How do we sustain ourselves? How do we sustain profitability when the addressable market is shrinking for a carrier like us? So that's probably question number 1. Along with that comes core competence. Carriers have always thought they can do everything, until they were hit by the tsunamis of the OTTs, who do it far more easily, far more efficiently, with far less resources, get market capitalization, which is about 400 times the BICS market capitalization. And you know, we don't know how they do it, given the number of people employed and the resources deployed in the telco industry. So one keeps grappling with core competence. Can we still do everything and be everything to everybody, or do we need to focus on a few key areas, do what we do well, the best, and then partner for the rest? And this has become a key philosophy, actually. The third area is, for us, is leveraging your strengths, I think, and understanding your strengths. I think telcos are still, both on a wholesale and retail level, not sure what they are. As in, to me, and this is a personal view, I don't represent a BICS view here, we are very good network operators. We are not great innovators, we never will be. And we need to master that skill, leverage that skill, and become the world's largest distribution network. Johnny was asking, you know, we are used to transactional business. We go to consumers, charge them for a service. How about the upstream? How about going, and this started happening in a big way all over the world. I think in Thailand it's also, it's taking off slowly. You start going to people who need to reach consumers, like content providers, but there are banks, there is government, there are hospitals. Everybody wants to reach your base. How about now looking, instead of downstream to the customer, upstream and monetizing that? Find a new addressable segment. So this is something, we are into mobile financial services. It's a new area. Banks want to use your customers and distribute services through you to them, and that needs to be monetized. Again, I go back to Johnny's point. He made a very brilliant point there, which is that in defending your old core business, the voice and SMS, you started forgetting. This is on the decline. There is no point spending, you know, the world has changed. There's no point spending tons of resources and continuing to invest when the return you know is going to be diminishing on every dollar you put into voice. So start doing something where you excel at what you're good at, which is the network, and you give customers an experience that you can really charge for because you're giving them value. The last thing I think that we are grappling with, and probably everyone is grappling with, probably core to everyone here, is cost. Your cost base to survive in this market has to be sensational. As a telco, we know speed of change, speed of innovation is slow. So while you are getting there, you must make sure to stay competitive. You have an incredible cost base. And there are 2 or 3 things, apart from managing costs yourself. You see in a lot of telcos, like in India, for example, Bharti, where they're outsourcing everything. They've just become a marketing shell company. Low risk, low return, because they know their traditional business is suffering with very, very low margins. So they try to remove all risk from their business. They don't want to be saddled with assets they can't get rid of. One is that. Second is consolidation in the industry. I mean, I know there are certain people representing countries here with a crazy amount of competition. I think regulators also need to understand that consolidation for the telco space is critical. In the wholesale space, we have proved that it is the only way to go in a declining business. In voice, BICS led the way, consolidating with Swisscom and MTN. Each time the transaction led to a higher EBITDA. Today we are probably the only carrier standalone that can generate an 8 to 10% margin on the voice business. And that's purely through size, scale, consolidation. Change the industry structure. So these are, for us, the key issues we are grappling with. And it would be interesting to know what the flow, because you're all representing carriers, what are the key issues in your space, in your companies?
I think a number of the points you mentioned there lead very, very neatly into Ricky and the level 3 Golden Crossing experience. Ricky, would you like to
first of all, let me talk about level 3 communication. So we are a global leveling company based in Bloomfield, Colorado. We operate in 45 countries. And we're basically serving 2 segments. One is the carrier segment, the other one is the enterprise segment. We also won one of the largest internet backbone in the world. A few years ago, we acquired a few companies with a content component there. As a company, we definitely see content is really, really critical. It's growing, especially video. So today we have a content division primarily working with the content provider for content delivery and also for live video streaming. Let me talk about a little bit of the big picture here. I think if you look at convergence here, a few years ago, I think the industry talking about convergence of voice and video. But when we look at what happened today in the new ecosystem, the convergence is not just about voice and data. The convergence is about convergence of telco, internet, media, and the IT company. And these actually create a challenge and opportunity for those companies operating in that ecosystem. And you think about the internet today, the internet is going. I mean, mobile broadband penetration, the fixed broadband penetration is going. And the speed is going as well. And I think the internet also has evolved into a very essential part of our life. We actually, using internet not just to communicate, but we're also using it for, social networking is a big part of the internet, as well as, using it for some of the diverse content like, gaming and, video as well. But we see, the internet going, but on the other hand, what we're seeing, the internet is not a perfect mechanism to transport some of the content here. And I think this morning, a gentleman from CAT talked about Google, is the primary search engine here. But you think about the people in Thailand has to access the Google content over 1,000 miles, either in Malaysia or the US to get the content. So it probably impact the customer experience without content actually localized in the country. And I think that is a lot of work could be done between the telco operator and the content owner. And on the other hand, I think if you look at the telco business model, is evolving as well. The challenge here is whether the telco want to be just a big fat pipe, but the telco also want to be something else to empower the content or go into different business model to monetize content. And I think on the other hand, the internet company, they're also looking at how they can get much closer to the eyeball to get a better experience for the consumer around the world. So I think in summary, there is a lot of partnership and inter-networking in the ecosystem between the content provider, the media company, the telco, and the internet operator.
Thank you very much for that. I think that a couple of points come out from what both of you have mentioned, and indeed the previous panel, that okay, the carriers do have big pipes. They do link all these services together, and because of their size and momentum, innovation is difficult. Some of that innovation can come from external, smaller, more nimble players, but some of it comes through acquiring the capabilities of the VIX or some of the other people that Number 3's acquired, or through partnership, as you were saying. I think that those are key ways that the carriers can be more able to differentiate and to meet the customer's needs. But I'd be very interested to hear if anybody in the audience has got either a contrary view, a different view that you think are not responsive enough. Is that your experience? Or do you think that there is a business model that works with the larger carriers through partnership, through acquisition, or through investment? Does anybody have anything they'd like to throw into the mix of this discussion? Be brave. I'm sure people have valuable experience that other people would like to understand. Okay, well, we can carry on talking among ourselves, but leap in if you do have any views, particularly if they're contrary ones. A bit of lively discussion is always welcome. I would perhaps be slightly contrarian in the sense of saying, Ovum, we're analysts. My team has been looking at the wholesale market, as I said, for perhaps as much as 14 years. And there is some innovation. Okay, there's not a huge amount of innovation because of that momentum. But I think that even the wholesale players need to differentiate in some way, because a big pipe from level 3 or a big pipe from somebody else, a pipe is a pipe is a pipe. You have to do something to differentiate. So what are your respective views on how you make level 3 or VIX different and more attractive to your customers than your competitors?
Yeah. Well, specifically for the wholesale segment, traditionally, we started with IP transit, right, which bridging, the consumer telco and the content, right, and which is growing. I mean, look at the internet is growing in general. I think on average it's going over 50% over year, and it's also a challenge, as you mentioned about it, because when the volume is going, right, you actually have to put in incremental succession capex to enable the growth, right? It's become more challenging as the price per meg is coming down, right? That's one. From a wholesale telco perspective, is the innovation probably coming to you, how you can be more efficient to lower your unit cost, and then you can still maintain or those margins. But on the other hand, from a customer perspective, right? So the consumer basically want to get to those content, and the content is changing. I mean, it's getting more video, especially on those content than the traditional web browsing and email. And so I think the challenge for the consumer telco is how they can give the better experience for the consumer, right? That also represent investment to enable the access network, right? And I think the same challenge for the content provider is, well, I'm sitting here, so I want to monetize the content, but I make sure that the consumer in Thailand has the same experience as the consumer in the US, right? And I think going forward, I think we are seeing more demand today, not just about transit, right? Because transit traditional offering throughout, you interconnect with, it takes you everywhere, right? But I think you look at the customer demand here, they're looking more and more about specifically POS, right? Especially video, right? How I can play the video with zero catalogs, right? From the home in Thailand, right? On the other hand, I think there is also a requirement that people, our customer, meaning the consumer telco, is I actually want to get in a particular content because this is the top, website that my consumer is browsing every day, or using every day. So I think probably we see a innovation evolution from IP transit to more a content delivery, or a mixture between IP transit and content delivery to meet the demand not just for the consumer telco, but for the consumer as well. So this is probably the innovation that I'm seeing, and I think there's not only innovation, there's probably a new product, if you will, enable the wholesale telco to get a high margin or to continue to invest in the broadband network, to enable the growth in the internet.
Yeah, and that leads straight to you, Sid, talking about voice and how the margin is disappearing. You need to do something.
Yes, you need to. I mean, in a homogenized, commoditized business, the only way you can make money, basic economics, is scale for us, and we've been pushing for that for many years now. But coming back to your question on how do you differentiate yourself, I mean, I go to the oldest cliche in the world. As a wholesale carrier, you listen to your customer. The retail customer is under threat. The retail customer is also looking for ways of making money. They come to you with something, and you have to be. I think there you need to be. You should have the capability to provide what they need at the price they want. So you must be cost efficient. You must be able to meet all their needs, because that's the one-stop shop concept is gaining a lot of popularity as far as wholesale is concerned. And you must do it with the highest degree of quality, because that is the way they are differentiating themselves in the market. If they don't want to be a bit pipe in the retail market, then if they were to differentiate themselves, I bring you content faster, I give you a better user experience. On the wholesale side, you've got to do exactly the same. You've got to invest in what is required to enable them to differentiate themselves. That's how you make money. Otherwise, you commoditize it again. If everybody does it the same way, then you commoditize yourself again. So I think the ingredients stay the same. The difference here between a Gray or anybody and us is that the content which commands a lot of value today is something we don't have. So that value chain, the I-mode value chain, where the telco kept 80% of the value, bye-bye. And the sooner telcos start living with that reality, then you're going to get 20, Apple's going to take 40, the content's going to take 40, maybe you'll get 10 or 5. But that 10, you make sure you get it and nobody else gets it. And how do you do that? Suddenly to reinvent the ecosystem and say, I want to go back, because that is what the Vodafone CEO said, that famous announcement about 2 years ago, I want to charge Google for reaching my subscribers. The consumer knows what they want. The content will reach the consumer irrespective of if a mobile operator wants to try to block it. Because there are regulators who will say, I live for the consumer, not for you. You block anything to the consumer, I cancel your license. So you are in a quandary, you're stuck. Right? You're in the middle where You've got to accept the reality, you are a Bitcoin, but a damn good Bitcoin. Okay, a damn good Bitcoin.
And then the term I heard, which is, rather than talking about Bitcoin, which is a very dismissive term, perhaps it's more intelligent.
I don't know how many conferences you've been to, all of us, where we keep refuting the idea that we are a Bitcoin. After all, we employ probably 1 billion people around the world in the telco industry. There are 1,000 telco operators. To be able to all the entire community go to the market and say we are all Bitcoin providers, obviously sounds like we are in a terrible industry, you know. But what is the innovation that's coming? I mean, CDN is a very good innovation. What is it doing? It is not content. It is a method of bringing content optimally, low cost, high quality. Right? You look at, sorry. Okay. No, I'm just looking at innovation in our industry. We see the Facebooks, we see, Groupon, we see Crave, we see other companies. The real content, my kids are using, and I'm sure other kids are using, and we are using. What is the innovation coming out of our industry? Squeezing more through a pipe, caching better, CDNs to route traffic better. It's all network related. That's what we specialize in. The sooner we realize that and say, we are not suddenly going to, within my company, get 3 people who come up with the game-changing social messaging. You know, we don't have those people. They don't think like that. The way we recruit, you know. So the sooner we realize it, the faster we invest in the right priorities. And once you invest in that, those are the successful companies. And what rides on our network, rather than build it yourself, which to us we have realized in pigs is the biggest mistake you can make, we've done it twice, is we partner. You know, Telefonica with Jaja or Level 3 Lyrics or somebody. You partner with somebody that adds value. Don't do it yourself because you'll never succeed. That's been our experience. Maybe you can succeed, I would have never restored. So that is our key philosophy for differentiation. The last point I just want to make is time for market. Consumers today are also very fickle, Ideas last instant gratification. Angry Birds comes with the 60 copies of it and consumers move on. There's nothing that, so if you are going to, as a retail operator, bring an innovation into the market, you must be first, because the life cycle now of innovations is also very short. And so, if you're going to monetize it, you've got to monetize it quickly and early. So if you go to a carrier and say, I want to give a world-class customer experience, and as a carrier, what can you do for me? It's not just what can you do for me, when can you do it? Can you do it by tomorrow so that I can have an offering day after? Because in 3 months, competition will be on board, plus the consumer will move on to something else. So those are the pressures. Those are the pressures on us.
Let's try it up again. Anybody?
Yeah. Just to carry on that thought, and on the topic of CDN, traditional carriers like yourself, I think you see that all few years ago, but I've been doing layer 2, layer 3 VPNs and this line, and they have the right set of people to go and sell that stuff, and also to maintain the network. And over the last 2-3 years. Some of those carriers, large ones, they have decided to get into the upper layer and start doing CDN as a good example. Whether it's BT, Verizon, AT&T, name it. The thing is, you need a very different set of skills and people to go and sell web services, compared to a layer 2 or layer 3 VPN. And so I'm curious, how do you see your company, and I think level 3 is an easy answer, but maybe for Belgacom, how do you see yourself with regard to CDN? And on a more generic question, how do you see the telco? Do you see them winning that that market, the CDN market, or will it remain the Akamai, Lamline, level 3 as a dominant player?
Good question, by the way. I think the CDN is definitely a very specialized, segment or products. And I think the experience from us is you just cannot just rely on the traditional telco salespeople to sell those products, because basically you talk to different folks in those organizations. I think as a company, we actually have a content division, with primarily two solutions into that, in that portfolio. Is CDN, and the other one's called Vivek. Is basically a live broadcasting solution. And that actually differentiates ourselves in terms of the selling process. But the other thing, what we are seeing here is traditionally, we go to the enterprise customer to sell the CDN, or to be a content provider, sell content delivery. That pretty much to address the demand from the content originator, right? Because they want to distribute their content over the internet around the world to give better customer experience for the consumer. But on the other hand, we also see an opportunity that, as I mentioned, today, if you are a retail fixed or mobile telco, it's actually very, very challenging, right? And you think about number of subscribers you have in the peak hours. Everybody watching a live video feed, right? Everybody watching YouTube. Everybody doing different things here. And this is actually create a lot of hustle for the network architecture, right? And just using the Thailand data, I mean the gentleman talked about the Thailand broadband penetration is probably 3 to 5%, right? And if the broadband penetration go to 10-15%, I mean there's a huge level of investment for the telco here to enable the broadband. So I think the other thing we're seeing here is the CDN proposition could be a mechanism to solve the bottleneck of the retail telco. So I think we see a diverse segmentation, if you will, not just from the content originator or the enterprise, but also seeing the demand from the retail telco.
No, we're not in this space because, to tell you very honestly, CDN is very much complementary to the tier 1 capacity player. Fixed is not a tier 1 capacity player. It does not add to that. For us, we're in the solution space, we're in the service space. So what we are in, we focus on segments. We have focused very much on the mobile segment and the international needs. Anybody who's mobile, whether it's an MVN or a full licensed mobile operator. What is great in our business is because we all work in islands and everybody develops technology in different countries, there is a great room for carriers to do interworking. It's a fabulous industry. There's a lot of money there to enable one entity development in one country to work with another. So that is good as long as people are mobile across countries. So our upstream sort of evolution has been, we have been core transport. We transported voice, we transported signals, we transported messages. On that now we add value addition based on what customers require. Not by doing it ourselves, but by partnering with specialists. Again, time to market is critical. If you say, that guy, I can't work out a revenue share, I'm going to do this by myself. By the time you're in the market, 80% of the market is gone. So the only option left for you is to slash prices and win market share, which is not value generated, it's value destruction. And when we have enough value destruction through the disruptive players, we don't need to kill each other. So it's better in our industry to partner with somebody who's already built something. So we are going up from the core transport layer of international traffic to adding value on it. For example, how to improve roamer retention when people come to your network. Rather than, okay, I just enabled roaming, now I can add more value. If somebody goes to your country, how do I keep him longer on my network so I make money? So we are evolving in that direction. The other area is if I can transport a minute, and if I can transport an SMS, why can't I transport money? Why can't I transport health details? Why can't I transport machine to machine stuff? So for us, that's core. If I'm very, very good at interworking and transport, why can't I transport something else on it? I need a little expertise, but it's the core principle. The core principle, the network is the same. Yeah, probably buy a network from level 3 or one of the good tier 1. And then after that, it's understanding a little more about financial transactions and settlements. But again, the data clearing and roaming is very similar. It's only an exchange rate that you have to master. And then when you look at a bank like Citibank that makes 8 billion in profits in converting money from a dollar to a baht, or from a bank without doing anything, pushing buttons on a computer can generate 8 billion. So obviously a carrier comes and says, this guy, if I can just take, 1% of that by just moving money across my network, that's a lot of money. So, you have to, so you look laterally, if I can transport this, why can't I transport something else? And that's, GSMA is heavily involved in pushing other services that can be transported. Comes back again to the retail theory that you have the world's largest distribution network. As retail operators, any service provider would be desperate to talk to you if you can push services through the consumer. Currently, it's only you charging a consumer for accessing something. You haven't spoken to the upstream a lot. Now you need to speak to government. How do I work with you? Governments are rich. They're the ones who made all the license fees. They'll pay you money to give services back to the consumer through the largest distribution network in the world. And that is, and once that happens, carriers like us come into play. Carriers like this come into bandwidth gets used, and services get deployed on a network, and then we see money.
I think that sort of plays into some of the research which we've done at Ovum. We do a survey of wholesale customers, and what is important to the customer who's buying wholesale services from companies such as we have represented on the table, on the stage, sorry, the table. And we don't say, do you buy E1 or do you buy VPN? We ask, what's the characteristic of the relationship which is really important to you? And one of the major conclusions which has come out of the latest wholesale customer survey, and Sid's already sort of hinted a bit at this, is that the buyers of wholesale services don't want generalists who just do everything. They want people who are very good at related services. They're very good at serving a particular customer niche, whether that's the mobile customer niche or it's the content distribution customer niche, people who want content distributed, whether they are the upstream content owners or the eyeballs who want to see that content. Having a portfolio of services which are related, which are integrated, which work together for, services for mobile operators, which include MMX, which include hubbing of different sorts of signaling, the conversion of signaling, but also the financial services, the monetization. If you can, as a wholesaler, prepare a package of services which work together effectively, efficiently, and are what the customer needs, then that is a lot stickier, a lot more attractive to people. And similarly, I suggest that if you can do something which is in the content area, for example, but you're not just doing the same as everybody else who's doing anything in content, if you can provide a range of services which are closer, more able to meet a particular customer's requirements, then that customer will be more interested in you as a carrier because you have that specialism. So it's a lot more than just the pipe, or the colour of the pipe, or the thickness of the pipe. It's these wrapped around services which go with it that we're finding is really important. And some of that is differentiation on quality, some of it is the other things we talked about, whether it's speed to market, very, very important. But you have to play to your core competencies, whether it's in mobile or it's in the IP level, all sorts of things like that. But we're finding that wholesale is getting far more exciting and far more a spectrum of colours than being the old voice and long distance capacitors. That's our opinion. Again, I'll give people an opportunity to chip in and to say, are these companies good partners? Maybe you don't want to pick on these two and embarrass them, but are the big carriers, the global carriers, are they doing the things which an operator in Thailand or an operator in Laos or an operator in another country in the region needs? Or are these big players being too big? Are they dictating the terms? Are they trying to boss you about? Speak now. You have an opportunity to influence them. Right, okay. I don't want to embarrass anybody by pointing at people and asking them to ask some questions. So we have a little bit longer. One of the big trends, the big words, the 5-letter words, which is hovering above us all in telecoms, is cloud. And I'm the first person to mention it on the stage. That surprises me. We're halfway through the first day. What do you think is the wholesaler's position in cloud? Is the wholesaler too close to reality and the enabler of services, and all this nebulous stuff happens at the retail level? Or does the carrier actually have a role to play in cloud services?
Well, before I answer the question, I actually want to put an observation. I think the industry is still wholesale business or the telco business, but it's actually changing from my point of view, because 5 years ago we had the same conference here. We probably would not invite people from eBay or Grid on the stage, right? And the reason for that is, as I mentioned, the convergence of telecom, internet, media, and IT/application, right? And cloud computing is part of convergence here, right? Think about, 10 years ago, we had to go to Microsoft to buy the Windows operating system as a license, right? They send you a CD, right? And then you install it on your computer. That's how it works, right? So you're not buying a software per se. You're basically buying a license to use that software, and they upgrade every year, right? And now what's happening today is, you can go to the cloud and just subscribe whatever application as a service, and you pay for a subscription for that. Now, and I think that also boils down to how could the telco be part of cloud computing trend? I think it boils down to core competence here, right? Because I think you heard it from company, right? So whether a company they want to concentrate being a big fat pipe, right, and doing better as a big fat pipe, or they really want to enable cloud service for either the consumer customer or enterprise customer. But I think we look at from the ecosystem about convergence here. No matter a company, they want to pay, to want to launch a cloud application to the customer, but there's a role to be paid by the telco provider, wholesale provider, because when you go in the cloud, no matter this is private cloud or public cloud, you need certain things, right? You need data center, right? You need a big fat pipe to enable the application to be digital, to be used by your customer. So I think the telco are in a very good position to enable cloud in the ecosystem. And also think about, I think the gentleman from eBay, they talk about the building relationship, right? For a startup application provider, it's very difficult to get into the customer relationship or building relationship with 24/7 help desk. I think the telco have infrastructure, have the relationship with those consumers or customers.
Would you like to?
I mean, I completely agree with Rick. I think this is the one area which will redeem wholesalers are looking to for really salvation, survival, because cloud is network, and this is our strength. Because it's great to take everything away from your client, put it somewhere, and then you need a pipe to access it. You need to store it. This is what we are good at: security, scalability, data centers. If this takes off, and if you see the push to a huge extent is also from the carriers. You don't see a lot of retail people suddenly saying cloud is going to rescue. It's the network people that are pushing cloud because this is where they see their future. Now for us, we are not a tier one, so we are observing this, but we can easily make our services cloud-based. Today, a lot of the services we provide are boxes that need to be deployed, but they need to deploy. You charge $500,000 to get into the data center of the customer, integrate. We can take it all on a hosted way. What we now call a roaming cloud, mobile, anything can be made into a cloud. So again, the model is also the great thing about cloud sometimes is it's people don't talk about it much, is reversibility. In services, if a consumer then says, I don't want this, it's hosted. You don't need to download it, you don't need to bring it in. But if a company, as he said, buys 36,000 licenses of Microsoft and gets 36,000 disks, and then you lay off 20,000 people, you're stuck with a lot of disks. So one of the things is it's a pay-per-use kind of the reversibility of this cloud system, the thinness of it. You can subscribe to a service, you don't like it, 3 months later, you pull out. This kind of model has to be. This kind of model will eventually definitely be a success, and it plays to the strengths of the telco. So this, I think, is redemption. I also think there are a few other areas that are unique to telcos. Roaming. We don't talk about this, so roaming, Google's can't do it. Second, localization. You will start seeing that the giants, the Facebooks, they are losing their local appeal. They are very global companies with global. You have a Facebook that is available to 900 million people. But you sit in Japan, in Korea, in Israel, in India, you know local markets. As a telco, look for opportunities that are local, that you can do. You can create a Skype for your own market with local touches. In the Philippines, they're doing this. It's quite a success. PLDT has come up with something, a tool which allows for social messaging and interaction, but in a very local way with local flavors. Location-based services, your monetizing of your customer databases. I mean, as I think they also said, you see all these OTTs want access to the consumer information that telcos hold. I don't think we have monetized it as well. And I think the last thing is, when we see people like eBuddy, and when we see a social gaming company making, what did he say, 1.1 billion, it's a staggering amount for a telco with huge assets. We reach there, but we have 400 people working for about hundreds of years, hundreds of decades. We've also got to start looking at their way of making money. How do you monetize communities? I think Singtel with its acquisition, probably one of the things they want to do is monetize a community. Mobile advertising, I mean, how much money can Facebook make through advertising and Google make through advertising, and telco has no clue how to do it. So why not learn? The freemium model is another great way. I think it's something that we haven't looked at.
I think
I'm just looking at it.
Absolutely brilliant. We could, just the three of us, continue this conversation for the rest of the week. I'm acutely aware that we're between you and lunch. So please come and collar these gentlemen. They've got plenty to say, they've got great opinions. You may disagree with them, and I'm sure they'd like to argue with you. They'd like to meet you, and I would suggest that lunchtime is a good opportunity to do that. We've got a lunch outside, which is sponsored by CAT. Thank you very much to CAT for sponsoring lunch. We're due back. I'm very guilty that we've overrun. We're due back at 1:45, back in here, and we've got some very interesting sessions for you this afternoon. I look forward to seeing you back. Thank you very much to our speakers.
Thank you.